Thank you. Councillor Snively.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. No, I agree with Councillor Bjorkman and Councillor Volks. We've already went through this. We already give administration direction where we want to go, and we asked for names. And moving forward on the next issue, I'll agree with Councillor Coxero here, but on this case here, we've already made a decision, and we already instructed administration to go out and get the names. So I will support it.
Okay, so we've had our discussion. We know where everybody stands. All in favor of the motion to receive at this point in time and wait for a sponsorship program? That's not part of it?
No, the recommendation was basically they'll bring the names forward, so I just want to receive that.
Okay, thank you. So all in favor of just receiving the report? Raise hands here. Opposed? It's tied because I was in favor. Sorry, I didn't raise my hand, but it's tied at this point in time. So motion is lost. So I need another motion. Councillor Volks?
I'll put a motion forward that the naming of the trail has to be derived from an actual name of a resident, and that administration do it through a lottery process.
Do I have a second?
So if I could on that, before you ask for a second, or things like Bike View, Fairview Way, Essex Freedom Way, they would not be. I'm looking at things like, obviously, Frank Maddie's Way, Elaine Clifford Memorial Trail, Gord Rental Bike Path, where it's an actual name of one of our constituents who has obviously committed to our community as Frank has, or has passed as Mrs. Clifford and Mr. Rental have.
Okay, I need a supporter.
I'll second that.
Supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Any questions or comments in regard to the motion? Mr. Phillips?
If I might, just for clarification, there were Touts Route and Sweet
Yeah,
Sweet Ride. I think that was a late edition Sweet Ride, but yeah.
Yeah, I was hoping we could maybe talk to Tout to see if we could have that name.
Yeah, I think he was not in favor of it himself. I had that discussion with him. So
Thank you.
that can be eliminated from the list?
I would hope
Okay,
so.
thanks for clarification.
So it would really boil down to the Frank, Mr. Maddie's, Mrs. Clifford, and Mr. Randall in a lottery.
Okay, any questions or comments before we call the motion? Okay, all in favor of the motion? 3 in favor and 3 opposed. Any further motions that anybody would like to put forward? Councillor Bondi.
Why don't we table this till our mayor is here? Then that'll give us a tiebreaker vote.
Yeah.
It's
We do
it's
that.
a big project in our town, so I think the mayor should be here.
Okay. Sherry, Councillor Bondi.
For the
Councillor.
record, I'm a little irritated. I don't like childish politics. It's childish.
Hang on a second. Councillor Bondi made a motion. Have we got a seconder? Okay, Councillor Kexer already seconded it. All in favor of that motion to table? Okay, that's carried. Councillor Volks. He doesn't get angry, he gets even. Item I, Infrastructure and Development Report 2015-15, Dunn Road Speed Limit Reduction. And I think, Councillor Snively, I'll let you speak to that.
On Dunn Road?
Oh, Dunn Road, I'm sorry, this is, this is administration. Chris, can I get you to speak to this?
Through your worship, we're just finishing up painting the lines and striping the last section of the Dunn Road project. project's been with us for several years. So we're completing that, intersection improvements, road widening, bike paths on either side as far as paved shoulders. So in that effort, I'm looking here tonight to reduce that speed limit. We're going to be promoting residents to use that. We want people out there. We want them being active. We're drawing them to that road. So looking to lower the speed limit there to make it safer for both the motorists and the residents. You know, you've got County Road 13, 700 meters from Dunn Road. If you want to get to Harrow or Colchester quickly, that's the road to take. It's built for that movement. So, I mean, I think the report is self-explanatory. If you have any questions.
Councillor Kexero.
I'll move the recommendation, and then I have a question.
Need a supporter? Councillor Snively supports. And Councillor Kexero, your question.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Chris. So, going forward, anything in the CWATS plan, I assume the inclination is then to change that all to 60 as we build these out?
Through your, I guess, Deputy Mayor, sorry.
Yes, Chris. Mr. Nepsey.
I wouldn't carte blanche that statement right now as far as if it's in a CWATS, it'll be 60. That's something I think we'll take each step at a time. County Road 50 is where we've been pushing as far as CWATS go, is already a lower speed limit. We'll definitely entertain that, but it's going to depend on each road and each case. So.
Thank you. Any further questions? Mr. Nepsey, this would be the entire new construction of Dunn Road?
Yes, it would be from where the new intersection is at County Road 13 down to Ogden, because currently at Ogden it's already lowered towards County Road 50. So also I wanted to make note in as well, what we'll be doing in addition to lowering the speed limit is enhancing the trail with signage and with similar decals to what we've put on Fairview. So those green decals with those bikers on them. So it'll help to augment that facility there. So.
Thank you very much. So I'll ask the question then. All in favor? And that's carried unanimously. We're on to correspondence. Recycling Council of Ontario, Waste Reduction Week. What's your pleasure? Councillor Kexero?
I'll actually move to receive both items of correspondence, A and B.
May I? I would like to support,
Councillor Bondi?
I would like to support, but with a friendly amendment of enacting 1, 3, and 4 of the 5 steps there. 1 is to promote it on social media. 3 is to proclaim it online. 4 is to incorporate a municipal resolution. So with a friendly amendment of enacting 1, 3, and 4 of the suggested recommendations from the Recycling Council of Ontario.
Go back to the mover. Okay, so the mover's good with that. Any questions on the motion? Councillor Vokes. Councillor Vokes, did you want that noted in the minutes? Okay, all in favor of the motion? That's carried. Item B, Windsor, Essex County and Leamington Area Right to Life, Essex and Harrow Chain, Life Chains, that will take place on Sunday, October the 4th, 2015. Councillor Bondi moves, supported by Councillor Bjorkman and Councillor Bondi.
Thank you. Here we go again. Year 5, I think, or year 3 of saying this. I agree with their democratic, this is about the life chains and the individuals that stand on the street corners holding up the signs saying abortion kills children. Of course, I agree with their freedom of opinion and their democratic right to protest. But I personally believe that we could reduce the amount of terminated pregnancies if we focused it on a positive and different message, perhaps saying something like adoption is a beautiful option. Personally, I think society judges people that make adoption plans a lot harder. And if the end result is to decrease the amount of terminations or abortions, I think that this group, or any group for that matter, and society in general, should focus on that there are other options out there rather than stigmatizing and guilting women for the options that they pick. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment. Any other comments? All in favor of the motion? That's carried. Committee meeting minutes, we have A, Coan Park Committee. Need a mover? Moved by Councillor Caxero, supported by Councillor Snively. Any questions? All in favor? It's carried. That's all for correspondence. We have one bylaw to confirm the proceedings of our meeting this evening, and that's moved by Councillor Bjorkman, supported by Councillor Vokes. All in favor? That's carried. No financial this evening. Under new business, we have Councillor Caxero, the sponsorship partnerships program that he was speaking of earlier.
Thank you, through you, Deputy Mayor Malash. What I'd like to do, based on the information that I found out in attending that half-day seminar, is I'd like to ask Doug Sweet to bring back a report to council to basically look at what we currently are doing with regards to partnerships and sponsorships within our municipality, whether or not we're doing a good job of that or a poor job of that, and how we could improve the areas that are not done so well, and then also take a look at the whole municipality and come up with a list of items that we could be using sponsorship and partnerships to generate a new line of revenue for the municipality going forward. So I'll make that a motion to ask Doug to come forward with a report if that's needed, or if just the direction is good enough.
Thank you. We'll put it in as a motion, moved by Councillor Caxero, supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Any questions to that motion? All in favor? That's carried. We now have Councillor Vokes, I believe.
Yes.
And in regard to taxi driver license fees.
Yeah, thank you. On Monday, myself and Mayor Ron McDermott were invited to the retiree social chapter on Russell Street to talk about with the seniors about their needs and wants for a taxi cab service, because since Mr. Vivier is no longer in business, the seniors have been extremely challenged, unknowing to me, in terms of getting around. You would be surprised how many seniors relied on that taxi cab service in order to get around, whether it's dentist, doctor, family, shopping, whatever it was. There's the community service van we have, but that's limited on how much it runs, on times it runs. So anyways, to make a long meeting short, when we come out of there, the fee for cab drivers was $157, right? The fee for cab drivers is $157, and yep, please.
Through you, Your Worship, I'm sorry. I thought you were saying taxi cabs in my mind, but you're saying taxi cab drivers. There's a license for taxi cabs,
Yes.
and there's a license for the drivers. The
yes.
license for the cab is $157.50.
Yes.
The license for a driver is
$114.
$114.50.
Yeah,
Yes.
114,
Sorry.
yes. So we're trying to discover ways, because it's hard to get cab drivers, first of all. So, and they're so challenged financially to start a business, but there was two initiatives come out of that meeting. One was to, even though we do run on a break even apparently, is there some way we can recess that fee of $114 to $60 in terms of driver licensing? And the second big ticket item, because there's a gentleman who wants to start a business up, and what they're telling me and what they told us is there's limited opportunities to pick people up in Essex. Like, it's not a robust business when you establish a taxi cab in Essex, compared to Leamington and what other municipalities are doing, for whatever that reason is. And so the way it stands right now is the taxi cab service has to have a office front or a storefront. They can't work out of their house. And the question was, could we put an amendment to the bylaw for really what would be one taxi cab opportunity for him to have a little office out of his house, because his rent is almost $900 a month where he's at. So when you look at the $900 a month and you look at the reduction in the fees, it would help him a lot, because it's not a big money maker for him. It's not. So that's what I'm hoping, if we could figure out some way to do that.
Thank you.
And so I guess instead of having all the discussions tonight, right, not that I don't want to hear everybody's input, if we could look at that, if administration could come back and understand the bylaw and try to define to us if there's some opportunity that we could be flexible with that and write that in, right?
I think Mr. Phillips has a comment for you on that.
Thank you, through you, Deputy Mayor. If I'm not mistaken, this is an item, though, that has been addressed by this council already this term, and a definitive decision was made in setting the fees. So I don't have the rule in front of me, but I believe under our procedure bylaw, we really can't address that again, if I'm not mistaken, through the treasurer.
Through your worship, or Deputy Mayor Malash, what we couldn't have addressed again was if Mr. Vivier came to council to speak on this matter, because he already had come within this term of council this past year in June. What you can discuss is the fees again, because that was a previous term of council and this is a succeeding term of council. So there's not a requirement for a 2/3 vote to bring the issue back to the table for discussion.
I want to follow up then. Thank you.
Follow up then?
Yeah, just as follow-up then, in discussion with the treasurer, certainly if it was recommended back to administration to provide a report on that would be something we can take under council's direction. Just in cautioning, though, in discussion on all of our fees and charges, and I know council's aware of this, but the rates that we have set are not at the full value. You understand that under the Watson and Associates study that we undertook on those fees, correct me if I'm wrong, Donna, but largely those fees are set in a way to augment or to offset the administrative costs of getting police clearances, of getting license clearances, ensuring that the person has insurance in place to protect our citizens, to protect the residents that are going to use a taxi cab service. So there is an administrative cost in that, and as in consideration of other efforts, we try to recover those costs so that they're not an expense. If it's council's direction you want to waive those or reduce those, that certainly we can bring back a report on that.
Thank you, Councillor Vokes.
If we obviously have record of how many licenses to drivers we issued, and if it's an abundance, then we're not going to do it. If it's minimal, and and as a result of us giving that reprieve on that financial aspect of it, it allows another service into our community. So it's money well spent, if you ask me, right? With the risk of being a little biased to me raising this here tonight. But I think the big ticket item would be what opportunities were there through the bylaw to reprieve or allow an office through a residential environment.
Ms. Hunter?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Malash, I did talk with Jeff Watson when you mentioned this to me, Councillor Vokes, and they are permitted to have the office in their home. That's called a home occupation. What they can't have in their home is the commercial vehicle parked outside. So they would have to find a place in a commercial area to park their taxi cab. So, you know, there is a little bit of relief there in the sense that they could operate from their home in terms of taking calls, but they would have to go somewhere else to drive. I just want to go back, if I may, Deputy Mayor, to the fees aspect of it. Councillor Vokes mentioned we're just breaking even. We're not. The full cost recovery for these fees was twice what I gave you tonight. And the idea at the time was they were to reduce it in half by council to try and stimulate the drivers and the cab owners to register with the town. In terms of numbers, Lynn, you can correct me, but I think right now we only have one, maybe two drivers licensed, one. And we have been working with, we had been working with others to get them to license. I have been contacted by an individual, and she was at the meeting that you're referring to. She contacted me last week, and she's very interested in submitting her application for driving and for taxi cab. She wasn't terribly concerned about the fees, but she is interested in putting a cab service in town.
That's a lady from Leamington,
I'm not
Oh,
sure,
okay.
I'm not gonna.
Right, no, I get it. So in terms of the commercial vehicle, the question would be is if I was a cab driver working for that company, could I take my cab home and be dispatched from there? Because it's not specifically the company, it's just my property, right, that I'm bringing the vehicle to.
No, through your worship, the cab is a commercial vehicle. You can't park it on a residential property.
Councillor Snively?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, I think the big issue here is the $900 fee he pays for rent. So I think that's the real issue here. So if he can run his business out of his house, I think we can solve this problem. We're going on and on about this, and I think that's a big issue, the $900 fee he's got to put out for rent, plain and simple. And if he can run his business out of his house, I think this is very easy to resolve. Thank you.
Councillor Kexero?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Malash, to administration. So does that mean that no commercial vehicle can be parked in the residential area? So if I have a heating and cooling company, if I have another company and I've got decals on my vehicle for that company, it's not supposed to be parked in residential? Is that what I'm hearing?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Malash, it's a little bit beyond what I just went to Jeff Watson with this particular problem and this particular question that Councillor Vokes had. I didn't get into the specifics of all commercial vehicles. I don't know if the CAO would know anything, but in
Mr.
any
Phillips?
sense,
Thank you, through you, acting mayor, deputy mayor. Don't get it yet. The bylaw, the planning zoning does not allow for it. However, there is an allowance for vehicles up to a certain size. I know commercial vehicles are not to be, but I think there's an allowance for one. You can't have more than one, but my understanding is that one is allowed. He can't have 3 cabs in his driveway, but he could have one, I believe. But that would be left up to administration to determine. But I know that by precedent, certainly our building officers deal with this on a regular basis. I see Chris nodding. There's trucks. I can think of a number of vehicles in town that I'm familiar with that park in the residential driveway on a regular basis, and we don't go around issuing citations for those. So I'm pretty certain that one is allowed, more than one. But I can't imagine that the operator in question, if we're speaking about Mr. Vivier, his proximity to, say, a place like, okay, so, sorry, somebody else then? Sorry.
Just for the record, and I'm glad you actually raised
Yeah.
it. So just for the record, it's a gentleman who is just a standalone coming in and wants to start it.
Okay.
He showed up at the meeting there, and he got me out, met with me out in the hallway as I was leaving. He stopped me and said if he could do that, it would alleviate some of the strains financially for him to get started. So,
If I can just follow up on that, if he was able to find a commercial property, and I know there's a number in town where you could probably rent a couple of parking stalls for the other 2 cabs if he was starting a business with 2 or 3 cabs, so, yeah, okay.
Thank you. I think we've discussed that one enough. So, moving forward, Councillor Vokes?
so just in summary of that, then administration will bring a report back, says whether we can amend the bylaw to allow that, and even something on the licensing fee and what that means to us, even though we beat it one time.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Phillips is saying we'll bring back something in writing. Thank you. Was there anything else that was added to the agenda, Lynn?
Yes.
Okay, oh, sorry. Yep, I do remember now. Councillor Snively?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, I'm going to talk about the speed on the 4th concession where we approved the reduction of the speed. was brought up at the beginning, we should have went from Walker Road to the Arner Town line. And at that time, okay, I didn't really believe that we needed it because the dips in the road from McCormick East. But moving forward, I've had many complaints. I'm really taking the heat on it now. And I know council was supportive before of reducing it right from Walker Road, straight through to Arner Town line. What's happening is the people that are coming east, heading west, out of the 60 mile an hour zone, as soon as they hit that 80, they're doing a good 110, 120 kilometers an hour. And I'm getting a large amount of complaints. And what the public wants to see is a reduction from Walker Road through to Arner Town line, which I would 100% support, and we should have did it. Like when it come forward, I had the support then. So what I'm asking council tonight is if they would support that moving forward from Walker Road, reducing it right straight through to Arner Town line. Thank you.
Do we have support? Councilor Bondi? Any questions? No questions? I do. I have a question to Mr. Nepsey. From an administrative perspective, we have a standard 80 kilometers an hour on our rural roads. It seems that more often than not, we're being asked to reduce the speed limit from 80 to 60. Are we moving in a direction where all of our rural roads are going to be 60 kilometers an hour?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, that's up to you, but you may be. I think definitely you see the trend is for lower speed limits. In this instance, since council has already passed 60 halfway through the road, I can see for continuity for the driver to maintain that 60 through to County Road 11 in this instance. It makes sense since you've already passed the 60. I think moving forward, what I would request of council is that you get a report from administration that would detail number of accidents on that stretch, would look at geometrics of the road, would give you I guess more of an engineering reason, and then the political reason can be taken into that as well. Like I said, but I think in this instance, because it's already passed halfway, I don't see an issue with passing it to 11. I know the 9th, there's a report coming on the 9th. I've gotten the police reports on the incidents and the accidents for the past 5 years on the 9th. I just got it last week, so I wasn't able to generate a report that way. So, again, I think it's case by case. I wouldn't go and say let's turn all our rural roads to 60. We can address each one at a time, and I think once that report is established, you'll have a format that'll give you something to look at. We want motorists, I guess, on those county roads, right? So if you're pushing them to those county roads that are built for those speeds and are designed with the large shoulders and the large setbacks for those higher rates, that's something we can look at. But again, case by case, I think.
Thank you. Any further questions? All in favor of the motion? Carried unanimously. Yes.
Now, we're not going to have to go through another bylaw on this one. Do we have to go through another bylaw? I thought maybe we could just, okay, good enough. Thanks, Larry. Good enough.
Okay. Councillor Snively, you had a second topic?
Yes, I do. Through you, Deputy Mayor. I had a complaint from a resident in Ward 4 that lives on Queen Street about cat population at this house. This person lives on the south side of the property, and he complained about the smell that was coming from that house in the summer. And to find out, this certain person has 25 or 30 cats in a house there. And what's happening is with the heat during the summer with the windows open and bagged up feces sitting out in the yard, I mean, I don't think a resident should go through that. And we haven't got a bylaw in place for the number of cats that are permitted per household. We do for dogs, but not for cats. So I would like to bring this forward. I mean, no resident should have to live beside something like this. So I would like council to consider looking at this and passing a bylaw on the number of cats restricted at a house, because this is ridiculous.
Councillor Vokes.
Outside the bylaws and everything else, shouldn't we be sending somebody in there to enforce whatever is being not enforced or not being adhered to, such as our animal control officer or our bylaw officer, just for starters?
Councillor Vokes, we did, Kevin did visit the residents in question, and he had to tell them there was no bylaw in place, and there wasn't a lot he could do about it, only to have it cleaned up. And there was not much Kevin could do, and he told the resident that did complain, that made the call, he was told that there was not much Kevin could do.
Okay, I'm going to ask Ms. Hunter for a comment here, please.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Malash, I would have to speak to Kevin to find out. I'm not sure about the cleanliness and how the animals are being taken care of in that environment, but we do have a section of the bylaw that we just passed set fines for, related to the keeping of animals, and that talks about unsanitary conditions, about feces and all of that wonderful stuff. So I will talk to Kevin about it. Beyond that, I would like council to give me the opportunity to bring back a report to council. This has been discussed on several occasions throughout the time that I've been here, in terms of having a limit on the number of cats. Also that has been talked about is licensing of cats. But in the meantime, and we do have a trap, neuter, and release program, and when we get into situations where we have these homes that have enormous amounts of cats, we could try to approach the owner and see if they would allow us to at least get them spayed and neutered under that program, which would reduce the odor coming from that house. But I will speak to Kevin about that particular instance tomorrow, because there is a whole section of our bylaw dealing with keeping of animals and sanitary conditions and so on.
Thank you. Councillor Snively.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. Kevin did make a statement to this resident, did complain that the animals were in good care, they were being well taken care of, but the problem is the smell and the disposal of the droppings. And in the summer, with the windows open in the house, there is a smell. But as far as the animals being taken care of, I understand they are being taken care of, but no resident living next door should have to put up with that.
Councillor Bondi.
Thank you. I'd be interested in having this conversation too, a little bit more in depth. Councillor Snively, are these indoor or outdoor cats? Through the chair, I just wanted to just nod your head. Are they indoor or outdoor cats?
They're indoor cats, and some are running outside too.
Okay.
But they are being well taken.
Okay, because we do have, I would love to talk cat limits. I don't know if it's even possible, because then you have to start talking licensing and enforcement. Enforcement would be the key. And if we're going to use our current animal control officer at $22,000 a year, I don't think he's going to drive around and enforce cat limits. It's hard to prove, right? But I'd love to have the conversation. And in the meantime, we do have a woman she's a volunteer, and she's been working with our staff and myself to trap and fix cats. Once cats are fixed, they smell a lot less. 25 cats, no matter whether they're fixed or not, they're still going to stink, though. So I hope we can find a solution. I'd love to have the conversation, an in-depth conversation with council about whether we can do cat limits. The City of Windsor does do a cat limit at 5, but it is very hard to enforce. I would love to see a lot of public education around outside cats. Any outside cat that you have, I'd love to see If you feed it for more than 5 days, it's legally yours and it has to be fixed. And we have mechanisms in the town to help people fix them. So I'd love to talk animal welfare again.
We can tell. Counselor Vokes?
To Councillor Snively, the 25 cats that, like, are indoor cats, if you went there and they were on the porch, would they be outdoor cats? No?
Just to Ms. Hunter, I'm just wondering if the health unit would, if there's anything that the health unit could provide background or something.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, I think I need to have that conversation with Kevin, because I don't know who's been brought into the fold in terms of this whole thing, but I will pursue that one, most definitely tomorrow, and see what what we can do to help the situation.
Thank you very much. I think that's good. We'll leave it with Ms. Hunter if Councillor Snively's good with that. Thank you.
Councillor Kixero, he had something about gravel roads.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Malash, I actually have two items. First item I'll mention is I did receive tremendous compliments from the Fair Board with respect to the assistance that they were given by our Public Works Department the weekend of the fair. They wanted to make sure that we knew. They were very, very pleased with how we, I guess, interacted with them that weekend. So they wanted to make sure that that was public. With respect to my other item, it's actually a couple of different things. I'd like exactly what Mr. Nepsey was speaking of with regards to changing speed limits on roads. I think the discussion should be had with regards to speed limits on gravel roads. Because certainly if we're changing the speed limit on hard surfaced roads, gravel roads are, as Deputy Mayor Malash said during budget deliberations, probably more dangerous than hard surface roads. So if, at his earliest convenience, if Chris could come back with something to council with regards to what maybe a reasonable speed limit on gravel roads would be. The other item, there's about 3 things in it, but it can all come possibly just prior to budget deliberations, because it'll have implications with regards to that. And I mentioned this last year. I would really like to have a percentage of our budget, road budget, as to what percentage we should be spending on reconstruction of current hard surface roads, and what percentage we should be spending on new construction of putting gravel into hard surface. I think that's important going forward with regards to asset management and whatnot. We obviously have an issue. We need to get asset management under wraps and in control, and this is part of the problem. I think a lot of times it's very politically driven to do the things that are fancy and fun and where you can cut a ribbon, but when we're resurfacing roads that are currently there, we don't get any pat on the back for that, but it is maintenance that we have to do. So, and I think we're behind. So I'd like that, and I'd also like an assessment of the gravel roads that are left in the municipality as to what we project that should be put into hard surface at some point, and if there are any that administration feels shouldn't be, that they should remain a gravel road for now. I'd like to know where administration sits on that, if there are some that shouldn't be, and a priority list of the ones that are projected to be hard surfaced as to what roads should be done first, second, third type thing. Obviously, time frame, depending on how much we're putting into the budget each year for hard surfacing new roads, will depend on how many roads we can do. We might only, depending on what we approve, we might only be able to do one new construction every 3 years if we're not putting a whole lot of money into new construction. And the last item is dust control. For the roads that continue to remain gravel, I had a complaint from, and this all stems from a complaint that I had on the 6th concession. It's speed limit. They feel people are traveling way too fast on these roads. Dust control is the item that I hadn't mentioned yet. but that'll go along with budget also. And then just the issue, you know, what are we doing? Which roads are going to get paved, which ones aren't, and when are we going to do them?
We good?
Yep.
Did you have one more?
That was it.
That was it. Mr. Nepsey?
Through you, Deputy Mayor. That was from one resident? Jeez. That's a lot, but the one question I have is, you noted in your first point was you wanted me to develop a report on what monies we should be spending moving forward on hard surface roads and gravel roads. What I need from council is to what standard? What am I trying to achieve? What am I setting the standard for? In order for me to have an endpoint, or to figure out how to get there, I need to know from council, am I building these roads, you know, to an A standard? Am I building them, you know, are we looking to make all our roads A standard? Am I looking to have all the gravel roads done in 6 years, 4 years, 3 years? It really affects on, you know, my report moving forward. I mean, are we looking to have all our roads repaved within 10 years? You know, they get built and in 10 years I'm replacing them? I need that standard moving forward in order to do this properly.
Councillor Snively?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, I thought we had a 5-year plan in place already on these roads. Like, our roads right now, we know which roads have to be hard surface, or not hard surface, redone. And I thought we had a plan in place that we were going to do so many roads a year. Wasn't that the plan at the last budget meeting? Like, didn't we come up with a plan that you had so many roads that we were going to do every year, Chris, or resurface or gravel?
Through Deputy Mayor, what we have is we've done a criteria assessment of the roads. So we have a listing of the roads and where they sit as far as the standard goes. We can do, depending on budgetary amounts, I can do more or less any given year. So what I have is not necessarily a 5-year plan, but I have an indication of which roads I'd like to do next, and then I hit you with that list, and then that list gets changed and then put back depending on budget deliberations. But I can definitely, I think I have somewhat of the intent of what Councillor Kexera was looking for. I can bring something back prior to budget, and then it can evolve from there.
Thank you. Councillor Bjorkman?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that it's obviously, it's a living list of roads and surfaces. Things change from month to month, and as they become important, those ones definitely at budget time, that's going to be the hot one that we get after. But you're right, it's good to have that overall look, and I think a lot of what's been done that's on that board behind us in the big room shows where that money's getting spent.
Thank you. Mr. Nepsey?
Are we looking to do urban centers as well, to include sanitary, storm, and water?
Sure.
Okay, well, okay, I shouldn't have asked, I guess.
You asked.
Okay. Thank you for the lively discussions this evening. And I think that's it now for new business that's needed to be added. I'm looking for adjournment. Councillor Bondi, Councillor Snively, all in favor. Thank you very much.